Welcome to the SciFi Pubcast. Come for a drink, but stay for the speculation. We're talking Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi series Season 1 with friend of the show, Ernie Garcia. This mini-series on Disney Plus is so wizard, so grab an old-fashioned cocktail. This is the SciFi Pubcast. Greetings! Welcome to the SciFi Pubcast, the podcast that tries to be a pub, and perhaps someday a pub that tries to be a podcast. As always, we're looking for customers that come visit our bar. If you're passionate about something and want to be on a podcast, well, let us know, because this bar is all about community. If you want to help us out, please consider leaving a 5-star review wherever you find the show, and subscribing to our YouTube channel. My name is Joel. I'm the so-called owner of the SciFi Pubcast, so to speak, and today, well, I'm looking around at the bar. And we have our two regular staff members, Kerry Simpson and Derek Beebe. And we have a customer, a guest. Yes, that's right. Longtime friend of the show, Ernie Garcia, is on. He's in the house. How's everyone?
How's it going?
Hey. Long time, man. I spoke to Derek and Kerry in the last episode, which was 2 weeks ago, but I haven't seen you since, I don't know, Anaheim Star Wars Celebration, Ernie?
Yeah, I'm still having withdrawals, by the way.
Okay.
It's only been like a little more than a month, right?
Yeah. It was great, though. It was great to see you guys. I love hanging out with you, Joel, and Carrie, just giving you big hugs. That was amazing.
That was great.
Yeah, that's great. And so, that's right. I saw Carrie, too, at Star Wars Celebration. It was a bit of a blur.
Oh, yeah, she was there.
I'm sorry. We did hang out.
Well, I am hard to find, that I'm shorter than you two. I get lost in a crowd.
Yeah. Well, we found you. We took our time and we found you. We had a tracker device on you, so it's called your phone. We just texted you. Where are you? Oh, I'm sitting down by the wall. Okay, great. Which wall?
Empire Tech.
Yes.
Oh, lovely. Let's start with Carrie. Carrie, how's things in Southern California?
It's kind of cooled down a bit, by which I mean that it's only in the mid-80s and not the mid-90s at the moment, but that's not going to last for very long, being that I'm in the valley and it's hot and desert-like. So, yeah. Same old stuff. Now, the end of my company's fiscal year came and went, and I had lots of projects to finish, and so now I'm just glad that the month is over. I'm gonna need a drink or two.
Yeah, could be worse. These temperatures could be in Celsius and not Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I would die if it was 90 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, I'm trying to be more optimistic and bring better vibes, good vibes. So I'm trying to brighten your day up.
Well, I think. Well, you're in Canada. I think you are aware that we need some good vibes down here because of reasons.
Yeah.
We are not going to try to get into here because
Despite every country's in the world have good things and bad things, and I know it's going to be the 4th of July when this episode comes out, if not the night before. So just focus on the positive things about America. Happy 4th of July.
Sure.
Yeah. But regardless, we do have one positive thing. It's called Derek's BB from Pennsylvania. Derek, what's happening with you?
My own life is the same as always. The kitchen is the same as always. I could have gone with something obvious this week and just gotten big slabs of meat from some anonymous desert rotting husk. But I decided to go with something a little easier. I got lava cakes, obviously. And I also got sand cakes, which is a real thing. You can Google it. It's actually something called sand cake, and it's just like a regular cake made out of milk, flour, egg, sugar. Now, the one that I looked up did say sugar, and I'm assuming that was a typo, that it was supposed to say sand. So when I made it, I used sugar. I used sand instead of sugar. And just to make sure it looked nice and pretty, I got that multicolored sand you get from a craft shop where you put it in a jar and it's like a rainbow color. So the cakes look really pretty, and there's this really great grit to them. Like, you could basically brush your teeth with this stuff.
Right. So, Ernie, are you happy you walked into this bar?
Absolutely not. Where's the air conditioning, first of all?
Oh, God.
And I was promised Kowakian Space Monkey. So.
God. Yes, our famous.
I hate sand.
Yeah, I hate sand too. I drove to the Utah desert with an air condition about 4 weeks ago. Yeah, nearly died. Yeah, long story, but I did not. At least I didn't eat in our kitchen when Derek's cooking. So there's that. But Ernie, man, yeah, you're a longtime friend of the show. You're in Southern California as well. So
yeah, actually, about 20 minutes away from Anaheim. So
Yeah.
it wasn't too much of a drive, even when I saw you guys at Celebration.
Yeah.
But can confirm it's been pretty warm.
Oh.
A lot of sun, a lot more beers lately. So it's like I fit in right away. But yeah, it's been good, man. We have 4th of July coming up, and that's usually a good family and friends time to hang out and eat some hot dogs and discuss what's going on in the world of Star Wars. And yeah, it's good, man. Enjoying the sun, getting a little bit of a tan. So
Yeah, with me, well, not much. It's my same old. After my extended road trip, I'm pricing things out for my next trip, and I'm poor, and yeah, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But enough about us, because we're here to talk about Kenobi, Star Wars Obi-Wan Kenobi, the miniseries on Disney Plus. Yes, that's right. We're not talking. What is it? We could we could do something else. We could change the topic to this $5,000 Star Wars cocktail that's currently being offered on the new Disney cruise ship, the Disney Wish. Now, they have a Star Wars lounge called the Hyperspace Lounge, and one of the drinks they have, it costs $5,000 US.
That's it. It better get me plastered real fast for $5,000. We're talking. This had better be better, like a step up from the Pan Galactic Gargle Blaster, man.
Yeah, it better send me to the next dimension, because there's no way I'm going to be paying that bill. Okay.
Better leave you messed up for a whole week for that much money.
Oh man. Yes, Disney. What happened? And the Disney stock prices are still down. Come on, this should be trading about 180 right now. But I digress.
Should be served in a Camtano.
But yeah, like I said, we're talking about Kenobi, the first season, and just note there will be spoilers. The series have been out. The last episode dropped 2 weeks ago at this point, and so if you haven't seen Kenobi, you really should see it before listening to this podcast. Man, this show is so wizard. Yes, prequel reference. Yes, I won. But I'm happy Ernie's here, because I know Ernie has some thoughts and feelings, and so does Derek, and I have my own, and I'm sure Carrie has her own as well. But where to begin, guys? Where to begin? Your first initial thoughts. Let's go with Ernie, because he's our guest.
Thanks, buddy.
Anytime.
It kind of reminds me of when we were actually in line getting a cup of coffee, and we ended up talking about it, and then of course, the fandom over there is just awesome. It's not online, it's not typed, and it's not mean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, a girl from Germany joined in, and that was like pretty cool. But I think my feelings still stand from that last time we talked. I love that series. Was it perfect? Absolutely not. It was not perfect. There's some issues I did have with it. However, I think all the emotional beats, all the things that hit home as a Star Wars fan were there. And I think, we got these interesting properties that kind of add to George's story, right? Like specifically the prequels and then the original trilogy. And we have these three things now that stand in the middle here. We've got Rogue One, we've got Solo, and now we've got Kenobi. And the question to ask before you go into the series is, does it add to that story? And the answer is yes. And I was very much blown away by what they did. And my applause, my applause here to Deborah Chow. She did an amazing job telling a beautiful, wonderfully emotional, driven story. So that's my thought.
That's amazing. Deborah Chow, of course, grew up in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and went to school at McGill in Montreal. She's a Canadian. Yeah, and we just had Canada Day, so there's that. Yay, Deborah Chow. Right. Okay, Carrie, what's your take on it? Your initial take?
Well, as soon as the bike club goes by, sorry guys.
That's the wrong series. That's the Book of Boba Fett. Oh, I digress.
Yeah, I know. Anytime, guys. Okay, no, I loved it. I loved the story. I loved little Princess Leia. She was amazing. I loved it. I loved it as a martial artist, because even before the series dropped, some of my brothers and I were sharing, clips in our WhatsApp dojo chat of Ewan training in Aikido to fight for Kenobi, and we're like, this is cool. Like, oh yeah, he's like 50,000 kotegaishis. He's like, oh, that's good, and a couple of arm bars, and awesome. And take that, all of you people who think Aikido is fake.
Cool.
But also, towards the end, like especially the last 2 episodes, there were a lot of things that kind of spoke to me as a martial artist. Like, my teacher knows exactly how to puncture the ego of someone whose ego might be getting a little too inflated, because that happens. And
to be fair, Carrie, though, nobody really thinks Aikido's fake. It's just that Steven Seagal messed that up for you guys.
Oh God!
Yes, unfortunately. Well, he's off in Russia now doing whatever the hell he's doing. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah. I loved it, and also it inspired me to go watch the recent remake of the Scottish play with Denzel Washington, because Moses Ingram plays Lady Macduff in that, and she was awesome in that as well. Interesting.
Yeah, I saw that. I think that's on Apple TV, I believe.
Yes.
It was up for an Oscar last Oscar season.
Yep.
And also, she was also in the
Queen's Gambit.
Which was really good. Yeah. Okay, Derek.
She was also in the Michael Bay movie Ambulance, which I just watched. It's on Peacock right now. She's in it for like 2 scenes, but she's there.
Cool. All right, Derek, over to you, man. Your initial take on Kenobi.
I went into this with pretty high expectations. This was my most anticipated television show of 2021. And, I love the prequels. I love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. So it had a high bench to clear, and it exceeded all my expectations. I really loved it. There's certainly some, little plot holes where you're like, oh, why did they do that? That was stupid. But overall, it was wonderful. It really felt like a movie in a way that The Mandalorian and Boba Fett never quite did. I mean, as much as I love The Mandalorian, to me, this was just a level above that. It looked and felt more bigger and cinematic and epic. It didn't feel constrained with the volume set. I mean, everything looked real. It looked like they actually built these huge sets. And of course, the other big thing is that it's a movie character. It's a Force user. It's lightsaber duels. That's something we never get in Mandalorian. So I absolutely loved it. And I had no idea that little Leia was going to be in it. And she was so great. The little actress was so great. I mean, it was the perfect excuse to make Obi-Wan leave Tatooine, because that was what I was wondering about going in. Like, well, what's the excuse they're going to give to have him actually go and leave the planet? And this was the perfect reason, because he was there to protect Luke. The only thing that's as important as protecting Luke is protecting Leia. They're equally important. So that was great. Everything was wonderful. Everything with Vader was great. I absolutely loved it. I actually rewatched the whole thing last night, and all those little plot holes and problems just fell away. And it was just consistently excellent all the way through.
Yeah, see, I was about to, if Derek had said something that he didn't like the show, I was about to say something about his expectations being too high, and having too many expectations is a good way to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
This is also a martial artist thing. It's like, yeah, you go into it with too much of a plan, and you're gonna get your ass kicked.
I was gonna say too, also that this is probably super rewatchable.
Oh yeah,
I've watched
definitely
every episode at least 3 times, and I plan on watching it more because it was so well executed.
Yeah, my initial take is I don't say likes is the proper word, but I think it was very effective to see. I said Kenobi, and I even said Vader, because both of these characters are broken, and you see them struggling, and especially with Kenobi, because he is my favorite Star Wars character, because I love the crazy old wizard in the desert trope that goes on. And of course, I've grown a beard, a reddish, tinged beard, in honor of Obi-Wan. So, but just the fact that, these people are struggling, PTSD, a lot of basically consequences of past decisions. And to me, that's fascinating. And so you get a lot of the old school Star Wars stuff going on, but you have a lot of prequel stuff going on. And it's new stuff, because we got new characters as well. Reva is just one of them.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I know I saw a bunch of people commenting on how unskilled Obi-Wan was in that first fight. And I'm like, dude, you stopped doing something for 10 years and then have to, dust off those skills while in the middle of a pressure situation. See how good you are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the body doesn't really forget, but sometimes the mind forgets.
yeah,
And sometimes, come on, guys.
and I think it's fair to say that Kenobi is going through some mental health challenges because he's been, he's lost. The biggest thing, the stakes can't get any bigger. He lost his mega Star Wars, and he's been exiled to a desert, and he still has duty and obligation. He still has some fight in him, but to him, he's almost defeatist at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
glad you brought that point up too, by the way, that the emotional damage, because I felt like this show is a good take on mental health and how to deal with something in mental health, because Obi-Wan had to face his biggest fear. This is actually obviously before he realized that Anakin was alive, so he was more broken in the sense that he felt like he killed his friend. Well, now finding out that he has to deal with the past and that he didn't kill his friend, but the issue of failure. And this is something like I've learned even from my own therapist, that like sometimes the things that we make up in our head or the emotional damage that we face is a lot bigger than what we think it is. In the end, we still deal with it and we end up being okay. And I like that was kind of the behind the scenes theme, the emotional damage that all these guys have. And I mean, it's kind of weird to be like, well, I'm not going to be super surprised by the show because I know how the characters end. We know Vader has the turn. We know Ewan, sets Luke up for the future. All that stuff was not going to be a surprise. But I like that this kind of had to do with emotional trauma. Reva had her emotional trauma, Anakin and Ewan. And I like that was the whole theme, is just kind of dealing with it and how different other scenarios are dealt with and their results. And I'm glad you kind of brought that up.
Yeah, I think that's important. Yeah. Derek, you want to say anything?
I could give some interesting trivia I recently read about the original version of this. It started out as a movie, as we all know, and then Solo bombed, and all of a sudden Kathleen said, "No more movies, no." And it evolved into a TV show, and it went through several hands along the way. But the original writer of the original movie said that his script was basically what became episodes 1, 2, 3, and 6, I think he said.
Right.
And no, I'm confused about what exactly that means, because they did also say that Vader was not in the original version. That was a later add. So I kind of operate under the assumption that the original villain was going to be Maul, because that's the rumor that we heard for a long time. So maybe it's basically the same storyline, only with Darth Maul instead of Vader. And I don't know if it was going to be Little Leia or not. But one thing that he did say was that Commander Cody was going to be the second lead of the movie, and that Obi-Wan was going to run into Cody, I think on Tatooine, and it's going to turn out that, Cody dug his chip out afterwards, and he's, remorseful for what he did, and he wants to help Obi-Wan. So while Obi-Wan goes off planet on his mission, Cody stays behind to watch over Luke. And then he's kind of like a subplot of the movie of Cody having to defend Luke from someone or other at the same time that Obi-Wan is off on his mission.
Interesting.
And that's a very interesting idea. And I hope that they do that in season 2, because it sounds like we are going to get a season 2 at this point. And I have to think that it's going to be about Maul, because we know that at the time of the Solo movie, Darth Maul was in command of the Crimson Dawn. He was a major crime lord. And the next time we see him on the timeline in Star Wars Rebels, he's a washed up nobody living alone on Malachor. So obviously somebody knocked him out from power. And I can only assume it was either Obi-Wan or Vader. And hopefully that will be the story of season 2. And hopefully we can also get Commander Cody as a second lead and have him interact with Obi-Wan.
I feel like that clashes with Rebels.
That was gonna. The problem with involving Maul is that Maul basically thinks Kenobi is dead until he finds out that he's alive in Rebels, and then they don't meet again until that last duel. But
Obi-Wan can fake his death when he fights Maul.
I don't think so.
I don't know. Well, it's hard whenever they have a line of dialogue about two characters not having met. It's something they're very clearly ready to dance around. Like when Vader and Obi-Wan meet in New Hope, he says, "When last we left, I was but the learner. Now I am the master."
Well, but that they fixed, because Obi-Wan's school did real good at the end of episode 6 of the show, not the movie episode 6. I should make that clear. We have to distinguish now. This is weird.
So I actually read the article that Derek is talking about too, and it's pretty interesting because it did come off as very informational, but it kind of came off a little bitter, in my opinion. Maybe that's the way I read it, but the way he described it, it was supposed to be in 3 movies, and I think everything we've got in the season was basically the first movie. So it was an interesting read to kind of hear, but yeah, I mean, Kathleen Kennedy, made a decision, and what we got was what we got, and I'm still pretty happy with it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like there was some things they kind of added to more of the story, like why that line even means more. The when I left you, I was but the learner. All that stuff like was added, and added more to the story, I should say, from what happened actually in. What was that, episode 3? I think it was when they had the flashback with Anakin, and just how they.
5.
Episode 5 was the when they go
the flashback to the duel.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Yeah. But anyways, the way they wove that in was awesome.
Yeah, I forgot. He said it was going to be a movie trilogy. You're right. And he didn't say anything about what the third movie was going to be. He said the first movie was basically what the TV show was. And then the second movie was about, I think, him communing with Qui-Gon. Oh, I remember. The second season was about him communing with Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon basically telling him, you're going to have to sacrifice your life in the future, and him coming to peace with his forthcoming death. That's all he really said about the second movie, not like what the plot was. And then he didn't say anything at all about the third movie. So maybe the third movie would have been the Vader one. That's just my theory. But yeah, hopefully season 2 has lots of Liam Neeson in it, chatting with Obi-Wan. That would be amazing to have.
So just curious, because like I actually don't want a season 2. I would like more of a branch off of the path. Like if we were to branch off on the path and seen Reva kind of try to make up for her sins and do that, I would love that. But I kind of want to leave Obi-Wan now. But that's just my take. I'm curious about if you guys want a season 2.
Well, I'm torn, because if they can find a way to get him off the planet again, that's plausible. Maybe I don't think just 6 episodes of him sitting around communing with Qui-Gon would be interesting to anyone other than people like me who saw that last scene and went, my teacher has had the same semi-exasperated look on her face whenever we've said that we've figured something out all on our own, when she's told us what to do, exactly how to do this, like for 10 years. Like, I don't remember. I've seen that look, and I don't think the general population would go for 6 episodes.
Can you imagine the snark though that would come out of the two of them?
Oh,
that'd be amazing.
That would be amazing.
I think what we need,
amazing.
We need like an 8-hour screensaver of Kenobi meditating in his cave, right? That's all we do. Like 8 hours. Think about it. It'd be good.
It could be a Yule log video for YouTube.
Disney Plus. Come on, it's good. They've done this before, even on Disney Plus with Frozen. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you guys think? Was there enough nostalgic moments in this series, or did we need more nostalgic? And how does that work? Right? Did that add to the storytelling, or was it more of a distraction?
I think it was a good balance. It was a good balance of nostalgia and new material and ways of making you look at both Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope differently than previously.
I think there's a balance of how to actually write in nostalgia, and there is a fine line to walk it. I think this series did a great job of like not being like, hey guys, look at here's something you guys know and love, but they kind of snuck it in, and it still served the story, and I like that aspect.
Yeah, I agree. I never thought anything was very, ham-fisted or anything. It all worked organically and well. I was noticing there were a couple of funny little visual cues the second time around, like when in Fortress Inquisitorius, when I think what's her name, the Imperial lady leaves her little
Tala?
Yeah, Tala leaves her little communicator behind. It's the exact same shot from New Hope of when the extreme close up of the thing sitting on the table as it was left behind, and someone's on it like, help me.
Well, so, even the series kind of followed the original trilogy a little bit. Like the story's lined up exactly the way it is. It's kind of crazy.
You're right.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. I'm a big fan of this YouTube channel called Screen Crush, and they go into detail, and everything is reflection or rhymes, right? Episode 1 reflects the Phantom Menace, and so on for the first 6 movies of the trilogy. That's excellent. Just with this nostalgic thing, I think it was a great balance because, of course, we got Kenobi, we have Darth Vader, right? We even have Uncle and Aunt, Lars, right? Okay, so Owen Lars and Beru Lars, right? And that's nostalgic, really. It was, family's important. But we also got all the new characters, and I think that was fascinating. You have the Inquisitor, Go ahead.
Beru is badass. She pulled out a straight up sawed-off shotgun blaster. That's how gangster Beru is.
I saw a couple of comments on like the Twitterverse and stuff about how much they must have fought off the stormtroopers before they got defeated in A New Hope. It was like, what was the battle really like here?
Yeah,
so there's also a meme of them. They killed all the stormtroopers, left 2 of the bodies behind as themselves, and decided to fake their deaths and retire at that point.
Well, so there's a cool thing that Star Wars does that makes fans like us want to explore more, and seeing Terra Sinube in the tomb was kind of shocking, but for the people that don't know who Terra Sinube is, I'm sure there was searches on him, so that was like a cool nostalgic callback, or even finding out about Quinlan Voss, and like people who haven't watched the Clone Wars and wanting to search that, or even was it the T-15 that he was going to give Luke, the model, the toy? Like that was a cool callback, and they did it in a way that it wasn't like shoved in your face, like look here, guys, but like it added to the universe where you want to go explore more,
or the possible bringing back of Corran Horn into the Star Wars universe, which apparently Mike Stackpole has confirmed is a thing. Is that it really is Corran Horn, the kid that Kumail Nanjiani's character was helping.
Interesting. We also have, of course, Derek, you said the Imperial lady? Come on, that's too far. Tala, played by Enya Varma. I think she's great. I think you need characters like that, right? Who, at the end of the day, sacrifices themselves for their beliefs and their values. And even the comedian, again, I have a butcher the guy's name. Camille.
Nanjiani.
Camille Nanjiani. Oh, I love him. He's so funny in everything he's in.
Oh, God. Plays a character was Jea Rhee, so there's that. And you mentioned Leia Organa before, played by Vivian Blair. Amazing. Hey, I'm happy I just saw Jamie Smiths, because I'm a big West Wing fan back from the day, and he's in the last 2 seasons of West Wing. I know it's so. Ali Law, not so much. Okay. I think that was great. Hey, even the cameos. Anyone into the Red Hot Chili Peppers? Like, who recognized Flea? Yeah,
I did right away.
I'm not into them, but I knew who he was.
Yeah,
it's like I'd forgotten he'd gotten cast, and I was like, oh, it's Flea. Cool.
Oh wow, so metal, so metal. Okay, yeah.
Oh, Joel, before we go on to something else, you didn't say, you didn't answer any question about if you want a season 2 or not.
Well, I think I do, because I want to see what's happened with Qui-Gon. But they need.
Qui-Gon's been a ghost. He's been, he's been hanging out waiting for Obi-Wan to be ready to see him.
Yeah, I don't need a season 2 because I like the mystery. I like it playing out in my head. For saying that, I will definitely will watch it, and I will be supportive more than likely, especially if it's at this quality of storytelling with all the different layers of meaning. And I like the fact that they readdressed a central issue that George Lucas was focused on is with Anakin versus Darth Vader. It was this free will versus determinism. Was it the choice of Darth Vader or Anakin to turn to the dark side? Yes, it was. He made that decision. Or was it determined because it was ordained? It was a prophecy. He will bring balance to the Force. I call it BS on that. It's bullshit. No, he actually, he made a decision, and I think we saw that in a dialogue in the last episode 6 of Kenobi, during the fight scene between Kenobi and Darth Vader, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, in a few minutes. But to me, I think a series like this, I can do season 2, but maybe not right away. Maybe, I like Kenobi. I want to see more Kenobi.
I definitely want a season 2, but only if it's as big as season 1. And to me, that basically means you have to bring back Darth Maul. Like, you can't just have him be in the desert fighting Tusken Raiders. That would be horribly anticlimactic. So I am dying for a season 2 as long as it's big and has Maul. I mean, I don't know, like bringing back Vader again would be repetitive at this point. So I would say it has to be Maul as the bad guy. And I would love to see that, along with lots of Qui-Gon. But I also like the idea of a spin-off about the path. You could have Camille Nanjiani in it a lot. You could have Reva in it. That would be cool. You could have Quinlan Vos in it. Because, it was kind of weird that they made 2 big name drops of Quinlan Vos saying he's alive and helping these people, but we never saw him. That kind of felt like set up for a future story there.
That was like one of the few times that Obi-Wan actually smiled, too.
Yeah.
I thought that was so heartwarming, Yeah. He actually saw one of his best friend's names on the wall, and there was hope, because that was the whole theme of this series was hope and finding your mojo again, and it's I would love a story on the path and how it continues, that'd be amazing. And sorry, that's my dog.
He's a Star Wars fan.
Joel and Carrie, do you want to see Maul in season 2?
I don't think I would want to see Maul in a season 2 of Kenobi. If they were to do something more with, the underworld, or maybe with the path, or, all of the above, something with Crimson Dawn, then I would love to see Maul. I'd love to see something about, Maul's downfall, but I don't think it necessarily has to involve Kenobi at that point, because and this is not me saying this. This is couple of podcasts I've heard of Freddie Prinze Jr.'s talking about how he would talk about to Dave Filoni and about how Maul is kind of the Sisyphusian character. It's like everything he does is going to fail. It's like he's just going to keep rolling that boulder up, and then it's going to roll back down. And he's going to have to start all over again. So the whole thing of him, trying to push the boulder back up the hill and then getting crushed as it falls back down would be interesting. But I don't think you necessarily need Kenobi for that.
I think it might have been premature even to ask the question if I want a season 2 myself, because we still have Andor, and
that's true.
Get to see what that's going to add to the story as well, and that's literally around the corner. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, even Bad Batch. I don't know if you guys been watching Bad Batch, but even the closure of what happened in the transition to the Empire is like really cool to see, even if it's in an animated form. So there's those 2 shows that might add more to whether or not we should get a Kenobi season 2.
I think there's going to be a problem to bring Maul back in terms of the timeline and canon because of the Clone Wars and Rebels and all the other side products in the comic books. But saying that, Maul is such a striking character, visually striking and complex individual. He's always neat. Whether they can successfully write him into a season 2 of Kenobi remains to be seen. Personally, I would rather want another bad guy or another villain, or villains, plural, because I think Star Wars is a big place and there's always room for more bad guys.
Yeah.
Would everybody be happy seeing a Vader starring miniseries about him going after Maul?
No, because
starring Hayden Christensen.
No, because
I feel like we've worn out Maul's story. The Crimson Dawn thing maybe could flesh out a little bit more.
I mean, we still have to see how he falls from power. That's the big untold story.
I think we might see that in season 3 of The Mandalorian, especially with some of the previews showing Mandalore in disarray. So I would guess we'd get some sort of flashback because, you know, they got to explain the whole Darksaber and that whole thing.
You know, they kind of have to explain how Maul got the Darksaber, or do they have to explain that? Because I would think that he would have gotten it while or before he. Oh, maybe I don't think. Oh, well, he left Mandalore unarmed, so maybe not.
Yeah, my take is that it like who you cheer for in an episode like that or a series like that. Did you cheer for Darth Vader or do you cheer for Darth Maul or Maul? Right? Okay, there's no sympathy, so it's kind of hard to identify, relate to the characters when they're both evil pricks. That's not particularly good storytelling because what's you buying, right? Hopefully, like that play on both their houses.
Well, it's the same thing as Godzilla versus Kong or Alien versus Predator. You know, the good guys are trapped in the middle.
Yeah, I know.
No, I don't know.
Prove me wrong. Okay, yeah, I don't know.
I think Andor could maybe possibly address some of the underworld stuff. I think whatever they're going to do with Reva will probably address some of the underworld stuff. I think maybe Reva could cross paths with Maul.
Could be cool.
That could be cool.
Still, maybe even stick to the simplicity of it and just stick with the Inquisitors would be smart too, because you kind of have to explain how they kind of disappear as well. I mean, we know what happens to the Grand Inquisitor thanks to Rebels, but what about the brothers and sisters that did survive? You know.
Well, didn't they all get taken out at the end of Rebels or at the end of Rebels season 2? Because we don't see them after that.
Yeah, actually, what was it, the third brother?
There's 2 or 3
sister?
in season 2, and they get killed off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maul helps Ezra, Kanan, and Ahsoka take out the rest of the Inquisitors. At that point, I think they've probably outlived their usefulness since there's probably not a lot of Force users still out there, except that there are.
Let's talk about the fight scene between Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi in the last episode. Because I know Derek's hot on this topic because of the different lines, right? Especially when Kenobi strikes Vader in the face and knocks half of his helmet off and gives him a scar, which you'll see later on in the trilogy. Mm-hmm. So maybe Derek, you're good at setting things up. How do you want to address this?
Are we talking about the fighting itself or the conversation at the end?
I think the conversation, because I agree with just one little take. I agree with what Ryan Avery said on Screen Quest, is that this lightsaber fight scene, it was just sad in the best emotional pathos type way, because we see these characters and it's like they're fighting, but that's not what grips you. It's the emotional part where you have these two old-time friends, now enemies, and they're both pathetic. You know, and they're both are worthy of some sort of sympathy, despite, you know, even like Anakin, despite his mass murder, crimes against humanity's business, you know, and Obi-Wan, despite his failure, because he was Anakin's teachers. Yeah. Go.
Well, I don't think by the end of that fight that Obi-Wan is really pathetic. I mean, Obi-Wan's kind of found his center again. He's kind of you know gotten the shit together, for lack of a better term, and they basically decided, you know what, I'm gonna put him in his place, and I'm just gonna leave. It's like he's kind of done. He's kind of done with Anakin at that point, which is sad. But also, it's like, you know, I can't do any more for this character. I can't do any more for this person who basically has admitted to pretty much killing himself.
Well, I think even the tone of that fight was a lot heavier than I could have possibly imagined. I like that the beginning of the actual fight itself was more of Kenobi thinking that this could be the end of me, and or I have to destroy Anakin, like to actually have to face that, and then to make the decision at the end of I'm done fighting because there is nothing I have to prove. But even the words of Anakin, and you can kind of see a little bit of good old Sheev Palpatine's like try to manipulate things in the conversation, because, you know, earlier in episode 3, he was saying that like I am what you made me, but now he's saying no, I destroyed Anakin. And just even from the production standpoint, the little cut of James Earl Jones' voice and then having Hayden Christensen's voice cut in and out was just beautiful.
Oh yeah, that was great.
The camera work of so there's a moment, I don't know if you guys noticed, but when they're showing Vader, there's a bit of blue and there's a bit of red. Yeah. So it's kind of like, even to the fans, it's symbolizing this emotion that Anakin could still be in there, right? But then when Kenobi hears that line from Anakin, he drops the saber and it's only red. It's symbolizing that he actually did kill off Anakin, and just that production standpoint was beautiful. But to actually face the trauma of facing the friend that you failed, and to feel like I don't need to destroy you anymore, like you've kind of destroyed yourself. Goodbye, Darth, and to release that anger, the fear, the sadness, all the feelings that Obi-Wan was feeling, I thought was so beautifully played. And I think now even Hayden Christensen steals the show with the who yells Kenobi the best? Was it Maul or Hayden? I think Hayden won at this point.
My big question about the ending of that confrontation is when Vader is beaten down, he says quite calmly to Obi-Wan, he says, "I'm not your failure, Obi-Wan. You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker. I did." And I'm wondering what you guys think. Is that Vader admitting to Obi-Wan that Obi-Wan is not at fault, and that he's basically forgiving Obi-Wan and letting go of that hatred? Because after that, he's screaming at him and yelling at him. But then also at the end in the scene with the Emperor, great cameo, by the way, Vader is saying, "I'm still sending out the probes." And Emperor is like, "Dude, let it drop." And he's like, "Okay." So like he seemed to drop it pretty quick. So I kind of halfway feel that in this episode, Vader did forgive Obi-Wan, and that's why he doesn't hunt him so relentlessly after this. And that when the Emperor told him to take off, he was willing to do that. Do you agree with that?
Headcanon, I think each their own, and I can see how you can come up with that. But in my headcanon, at least, the way I viewed that moment was Anakin is still trying to one-up Obi-Wan with that comment. He's trying to like, "No, you didn't affect me, blah, blah, blah." But it actually ended up being the words that Obi-Wan needed to heal. The words he needed to hear to heal himself. Like without even realizing it, Anakin helped Obi-Wan. But even with the Sheev Palpatine thing, the way I viewed that scene was Palpatine manipulating Anakin still. Like he's still kind of mentally beating him down, right? Mm-hmm. But he's telling him like, you care too much about your old master here. And it's almost like Vader going, "No, I'm not. No, I don't. Okay. Yeah, no, I only serve you." And like that's why he drops it so fast. He's like trying to prove himself that he doesn't care. And that's kind of the way I view it. I don't think he was trying to forgive Obi-Wan, but he does care about him, and he's trying to kill that off.
Yeah, my take is that Darth Vader, he doesn't even going to give 1 ounce to Kenobi. Not even 1 ounce. He made that decision. It's the power, and he made the right decision. It's like existentialism on acid or times 10 in the sense that everyone else is just riffraff, whereas Darth Vader, because he made the decision to become Darth Vader, he's the Uberman. He's the Untermush. And Kenobi's nobody. Of course, it's irrational.
Except that he's still obsessed with finding Kenobi until Palpatine puts him in his place. I mean, I don't really associate the dark side with forgiveness all that much. So I don't think it's really Vader forgiving or Anakin forgiving Obi-Wan for whatever part he thinks Obi-Wan had in his fall to darkness. I think it's more like, "No, you're not the boss of me. You can't tell me what to do."
Yeah, and just
you guys. Screw you.
And remember, Anakin didn't really have any. Doesn't know who his father was, right? And in many ways, Kenobi was his father. So yeah. Darth Vader has daddy issues. Go figure. With the name Vader.
Daddy Palpatine. That's what he calls Daddy Palpatine. Also, I think it was kind of implied that Anakin had to prove himself to be the master. It was kind of shown in the flashback, and that was like the thing that defeated him in the end. Good old Obi-Wan pulled a fast one on me. their second fight, their second fight on the last scene there was Anakin really trying to prove his master wrong. And just I kind of laugh in my head now thinking about how Vader, when he faces Obi-Wan on the Death Star, how pissed off he must be because Obi-Wan still showed him up. Like he's got to be like, this guy, clenching his fist. This guy just disappeared and I didn't defeat him, and Obi-Wan pulling a fast one. But it's kind of the way I viewed it. It's just Anakin's will to show his power and might. Even in the way he fights is very hack. And Obi-Wan being very crafty, but he's just trying to prove he's got more power and that he is the master, and it just never panned out for him.
Yeah, that's a whole ego thing. That's why I say a good teacher knows exactly which buttons to push to not necessarily screw with, but kind of right the ship of a student that maybe their ego is getting a little too overblown. And you see it like throughout the last 4 episodes, especially like every time, like Obi-Wan's just poking holes in Vader's ego the entire time, because he knows exactly what he's known this guy for 20 years by now. He knows exactly what will set him off.
I don't know. I kind of detected a tone of regret in his voice when he said, I'm not your failure. Maybe he thought at that point that he was about to be murdered by Obi-Wan, and it was like, well, this is it. I'm going to die. I might as well just be honest with myself and tell him the truth about something. And then when Obi-Wan once again spares him and just walks away, that's when the anger takes over again, and that's when he gets pissed off and starts yelling and screaming again, because he's reliving that moment on Mustafar all over again, of Obi-Wan just walking away and leaving him helpless.
Yeah, he may have had a death wish, and you see that at the end of Return of the Jedi with his interaction with Luke. And when he is redeemed. He's made another conscious decision. But this time around, no, he's not there yet. And
even the redemption I was going to say too was, even though he's redeemed, he's still kind of trapped, which is why he tells him it's too late for me. All the damage had been done at that point. We have that last stand, I like to call, of Anakin, but it is the destruction of Vader. But there wasn't anything. If he would have survived, it would have been worse for him, I think, for Anakin to move on. It was just one of those give up moments. So yeah, you're right.
You mean at the end of Jedi?
Yeah, at the end of Jedi. I think that's like one of those. It's too late.
Well,
for me.
I mean, to jump forward 30 years of the timeline, it's like, all the people who got pissed off that Ben Solo died. Like, what would have happened if he had survived? Was he just going to show up and say, "Hey guys, sorry about all the people I killed.
My bad.
My bad. I'm a good guy now." Like, what would Anakin have done at that point? It's not like he could live outside of the suit. So unless they gave him a white suit, maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
I think, isn't there like a Star Wars Infinities comic book of like a white suited Vader becoming a good guy or something? That sounds familiar.
And it's not even a face cover up. It's just kind of like a over the nose and over the mouth, I think.
Kind of like a Malgus or Moloch type thing. Yeah. Okay. At some point, he's done too much damage. He can't really be a functioning member of society again, or he could maybe try, but it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, he did some truly heinous, evil things in this show. Like in episode 3, when he's just like randomly snapping people's necks walking by. That was so badass.
Well, okay, and this is what I've been telling people about this show. It's like the last time Vader scared the crap out of me, I was 6, and there was a reason why I would usually skip over Empire Strikes Back until I was maybe 12 or 13. It's like, because Vader was too scary in Empire. And like, as much as I love Yoda, Vader scared the crap out of me, so I would, jump from New Hope to Jedi and, kind of skip over Empire for a while. But, eventually I got over that.
Yeah, and of course it's Rogue One at the end of it. you see Vader in his prime, right? Just knocking and killing rebel soldiers down at will. It's just the horror.
But even that, that's just like 2-3 minutes. This is like, a good 10-minute chunk of just Vader being completely murderous and evil, and it's like, oh yeah, this is the guy that you want to be afraid of. This is the guy you don't want to mess with.
When he sets the fire and drags Obi-Wan through the fire, that was so brutal.
Oh yeah.
They've made Vader more threatening than when, like Carrie was saying, like Vader was just an imposing figure, and that's what made him scary. I always think of Empire Strikes Back and just seeing his shadow when Luke is going up the stairs to face him. That was scary.
Yeah.
But now it's like you're seeing him snap people's necks at will just to draw out Obi-Wan for pleasure. Even it was cool to see, as Derek said, but it's also very like, ooh, Vader's not to be trifled with. And even the Reva fight with him, that was cool to see. New side of Vader. Just, I don't need a lightsaber. I'm just going to use my force powers. Oh, let me snap your lightsaber in half, and I'll give it back to you.
In the gut.
Yeah.
Another great moment is in episode 5 when he just like the ship's about to take off. He storms into the hangar and he just grabs it with the force, slams it down to the ground, rips it open. That was so powerful.
Yeah, until he realizes the ship's empty and like, wait, what?
Yeah.
What happened here?
Wow, we can talk about Kenobi for another hour, but we've been talking about Kenobi for an hour already. So perhaps we should give our last thoughts and wrap this episode up. And perhaps we get a season 2 of the Sci-Fi Pubcast talking about Kenobi. Any last thoughts?
So I'll kind of start here, and just to throw in, because like I did say at the beginning of the episode that the show wasn't perfect, and I'm actually glad that Derek mentioned it, and I'm glad he had a different aspect of it, but I felt like the volume made Kenobi feel a little small to me at times. I can tell when they were shooting in the volume, and to me they'd be like, it took me out at times, but then, like I said, the emotional beats all were there and made me enjoy the show. And, every time I watched it again, I finally put it out of my mind. So there was times where I felt like there was some budgetary issues, maybe because Ewan probably cost a lot, but for this show,
Hayden not so much.
Yeah, Hayden not so much. He wasn't used as much either, too. But Ewan's acting in this show, hands down, probably just amazing. Like when he had to force, hold Leia, the amount of pain that was in his eyes, how painful it looked to use the Force again. All that was said in his eyes, and I was just taken aback. But this show, I think, is great, and I think it will add so much more to the story.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that.
No, that's great. That's great.
But also, I think there was a conversation I had with Joel about having a hero to look up to. This is like, this is kind of just a personal thing, and I'm glad there's so much Star Wars out there that you can pick and choose what you like, that we don't need to argue. I will agree to disagree, but I will say that it's nice to have somebody that I remember from younger be a hero and be played off as a hero in the end, because I don't like what they did with Luke. But I can get behind what they did with Obi-Wan, and I am here for it. So I will bow out my thoughts with that.
Nice. Carrie, you want to go? Last thoughts?
I love this. I love the additional context it gave to the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, Obi-Wan and Vader, Obi-Wan and Leia, the added relationship between Obi-Wan and Owen and Luke, and just there were dots that connected that were like, oh, this makes more sense now. Great, cool, and it was fun. And like I said, all the fighting sequences, especially when you're using stuff that I train in, is just like, oh, cool. I do that all the time. Cool, let's do that again. And stuff. It was great.
Cool. And Derek, man, last thoughts, sir.
I thought it was great. I went into it really hoping for a cool confrontation between Obi-Wan and Vader, and I definitely got that. I was surprised that they already met in episode 3, and I was actually worried after 4 and 5 that they weren't going to meet in 6 because the story seemed to be moving away from that. So I was relieved that 6 had a big, dramatically satisfying duel between them. I thought both of the fights were really good, and they managed to be as big as they needed to be. They were not disappointing. And I didn't even know that there was going to be a little Leia in the show going in. And I thought that that was the emotional core of the series. And the relationship between Obi-Wan and Leia was so perfect and touching. And when they say goodbye forever at the end, I openly sobbed because that was the last time they're ever going to see each other alive. And, you know, they
until
had this
right before Vader kills him.
Yeah. The next time she sees him, it's like across a hangar bay as Vader cuts him down. So like they had this wonderful close relationship, and they're never going to see each other again, and that's so sad. But it was so great. Everything about the show was wonderful.
Really quick, just to add, really quick, Obi-Wan's last thing he sees is Luke and Leia reunited again.
Yes,
yeah, I was about
perfect.
to say that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And my last thoughts is that 1, I'm disappointed there weren't that many puns in the series because I like my puns. And 2 is that
shocked.
They need more sand jokes. Just saying. But 3, I quite find this tension, this philosophical tension between free will and determinism to be key, especially in the original trilogy. The relationship between Kenobi and Anakin / Darth Vader. And you just look at not General because she's 10 years old, but Princess Organa's little droid companion friend, right? Lola, which I believe is a direct reference to the really art house German film from the 90s called Run, Lola, Run, which is all about exploring this tension between free will, determinism, and the butterfly effect, where certain small things and certain decision-making can really affect where a person's heading to. And
I love that movie. That's one of my favorite movies.
That's my last take. Yay!
Yay!
Oh, well. Let's wrap the show up because we all have lives to go out and we have more Star Wars to watch and other things. So there's that. Ernie, I just want to say thank you for joining us, man. It's always great to see you. You're a dear friend, and you have insights in terms of Star Wars and other franchises out there. The Expanse is just namely one of them. But thanks for coming on. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I love you guys so much, man. I do appreciate when you guys bring me on. It definitely feels like you guys are family to me. Joel and I had some really wonderful moments at Celebration and some good topics we talked about. And it's nice to play out the thing that should be Star Wars fandom, respecting each other's opinions and discussing it and try to find balance, because I find that Twitter can be garbage sometimes.
Big time. Yeah.
When I see the arguments. But, it's nice to have the community of you guys and, just sit and talk about something we love. So.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thanks, man. Yeah. Our closing. This show is available on most podcast platforms on YouTube. Yes, I'm reading a script right now. Subscribe today. For listener engagement announcements, follow us on Twitter at SciFi Pubcast. And if you wish to contact us directly, yes, that's possible. Our email address is management@scifipubcast.space. We love hearing from our listeners, and that's true. So, Carrie, what's your Twitter address?
My Twitter handle is Carrie Blackfire42. That's Keri Blackfire42.
And what other podcasts do you do?
I am on DC Talk, which is the Random Chatters DC Comics news and discussion show. Although we're kind of on a bit of a hiatus at the moment because life happened. I'm also on Cape Chronicles, which is our comic book movie podcast, and Enter the Dojo, which is our martial arts movie / Cobra Kai discussion podcast.
Cool. Derek, what's your Twitter address?
I'm at Derek J. Beebe, and I should quickly mention, and speaking of Star Wars, I'm almost done reading the new sequel novel, Shadow of the Sith. It sets up Rise of Skywalker. It's really good. It does so much connecting of the dots between the sequel trilogy and the books and the comic books. I highly recommend it. Excellent. And Ernie, where can people find you on social media, if you have social media?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Don't Try the Sandcakes.
The bullying goes away eventually,
I'm on Instagram at your buddy Ernie. Once again, thank you guys. I love you very much, and to the Spire.
Man, that's great. Thank you, Ernie. Appreciate that.
I went to Galaxy's Edge for the first time, and nobody said that. Nobody did any of the play acting.
Oh God.
Oh, that's sad.
I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that. I'm Joel. My Twitter address is at Joel_Welch, WELCH, just like the grape juice. Really. Thanks for listening up to this point. It's closing time. Take care and please make it home safely. We'll see you next time. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Music provided courtesy of Logan Rathbone. Podcast logo by Jea Rhee. Copyrighted Joe Welch. Listen responsibly. And we can't wait for your next visit to our fine establishment. Cheers.